Hi again, everyone. This video is sponsored by contribution from Jenny, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. My husband and I have been together almost 20 years. When I first met his family, they seemed like such nice people. His mom has had a great public face, is in a caring profession, does a lot of charity work, big in the church, etc. She is a good listener and is easy to talk to. I loved her. I thought she was such a sweet lady and that I was lucky to have her as a mother-in-law. We spent quite a bit of time together. We had a good relationship until she started giving me jabs about my cooking. The amount I was working or that I kept my house too clean or not clean enough, followed by my poor son. When I called her out on it, she said, "Oh, I'm just joking," or "I'm just interested in what you are doing." Outside of these comments, she was very sweet to me. So I tried to ignore the comments for years. But then the comments started coming more frequently. When she responded with her usual, "I'm just joking," I said, "No, you're not." She said she didn't say anything at the time, but later I started to hear these comments in every email and in every conversation. That's when I started to distance myself from her. When my sister-in-law had her daughter, and my mother-in-law became very focused on the granddaughter. She started her smear campaign of the spouse, calling him a pedophile. I know this sounds ridiculous, but she comes across very convincing. Nobody in the family questioned her. The couple broke up. My mother-in-law became very demanding about spending alone time with the granddaughter a few times a week, including sleepovers. She undermined my husband's sister constantly until she had control over the granddaughter. The husband's sister, my husband's sister has admitted that she has effectively turned her own daughter against her. She also admitted that her mother needs to control every little thing in everybody's life. Those are her words. She tried to stick up for herself once by saying kids should listen to their parents, not the grandparents. My mother-in-law lost it and started screaming at her. Fast forward a few years and I became pregnant with our daughter. After I gave birth, that's when the shit hit the fan. She constantly demanded alone time with our baby and that she needs to hold her and that she must bond with her. I didn't want to leave my daughter with anybody when she was a newborn. When she came over to my mother-in-law's house, to visit, she would grab my daughter out of my hands and run into another room with her. She did this every time. It bothered me, but I didn't say anything at the time. My mother-in-law kept nagging for babysitting, but I wasn't interested. She yelled at me and said, "You need to leave her all day." She took off with her once without saying anything to anybody when she was a month old. I had no idea where she had gone with my daughter. I haven't gone over to her house without my husband since. She has instigated fights between me and my husband, and I swear she would love nothing more than to turn my daughter and husband against me. She has flat out said she can't wait till the day that my daughter talks back to me. When my daughter was 6 months old, my mother-in-law showed up at my house uninvited, walked through the front door, grabbed my daughter out of my hands, and told me to go find something to do. She was taking my daughter out for the day. I said, "I don't think so. This isn't a good time. I'm putting my daughter down for a nap." I quit answering the door after that. When my daughter was about the same age, I caught my mother-in-law shoving strawberries with chunks of dirt from the garden down my daughter's throat. When I asked her what she was doing, she said, "You need to relax. Exposure is good for her." She had her fingers fully inserted in my daughter's mouth, making her choke, and she was moving fast like she was trying to get as much dirt down her throat as possible before I could get to her. My daughter has a chronic illness, which my mother-in-law refuses to acknowledge. When she asked about my daughter's health, I tell her what the specialists have said, and she responds, "Are you sure?" "Well, are you sure?" "Well, isn't that interesting?" as she walks away. This is just a few examples of what has happened. I would question if she's done something to your daughter, because all this alone time with kids sounds a lot like some kind of weird Munchausen by proxy, or that's where it might end up. This is just a few examples of what has happened. I have dealt with ongoing stalking, gaslighting, and smear campaign against me while she is playing victim of a loving grandmother that just wants to spend a little time with her granddaughter. She is also playing the pseudo stupidity card, pretending that she doesn't have the slightest idea what she has done. I must be crazy, controlling, difficult, and probably postpartum depression. At least that's what she's telling people. Also, that I'm a selfish person that needs to learn to share. You don't share children. The hardest part is the social isolation. To the outside world, she seems like the sweetest person. I know people are not going to believe me, so I have kept quiet. She is on social media constantly with literally thousands of pictures trying to sell an image, an idea of who she is. The real her is the exact opposite of what she portrays. I don't know if the people on social media can see through her. I didn't until recently. During the last few family functions, my mother-in-law has been giving me a creepy stare, like she's looking right through me. It's difficult to describe. Her eyes are bloodshot and bulging out of her head, but there is a vacancy behind the stare. It kind of looks like the picture you have with narcissists act like every day is Mother's Day. I have also caught the older sister, golden child, looking at me like this as well. I don't want to go to these functions at all. My mother-in-law is obviously a sick lady, and I think she's getting sicker as she ages. I don't want her anywhere near my daughter. I've also caught her saying to my daughter, "You miss me, don't you? You want to spend more time with me, don't you?" The rest of the family are enablers, flying monkeys, and my husband feels caught in the middle and doesn't know what to do. They are using fog, fear, obligation, guilt to try to control my husband. He usually has a hard time saying no, but he's starting to see through the manipulations. When he has tried to hold my mother-in-law accountable, she denies it and says, "I don't see it that way. I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about." When he responds, "Yes, you do," she says, I guess I'm going to have to think about it really hard. She again demanded babysitting. My husband responded, "I don't think so, Mom." She then started crying and pleading and throwing her hands up in the air and started running around. "Please, please, I need to be with her." He said that it was a real eye-opener for him. She regularly disrespects any boundary we set with her regarding our daughter and then wonders why we don't trust her. I was wondering if you could go into detail about the different grooming tactics that they use on grandkids to get control. Some tactics are overt while most are sneaky. I was wondering if you could spell out why it's important to protect your kids from a malignant narcissist, whether they're family or not. Thanks again, Ollie. They manipulate our children because they know what our children mean to us. Children are ours. So to turn a child against their own parent is the ultimate thrill for this type of narcissist. Your mother is another narcissist that doesn't want to grow up and needs constant attention. And when your mother-in-law doesn't get her way, she acts like a child. Listen, Aaron, kids are easy to manipulate, especially if you're buying them things. Now, if you're going to buy a 6-year-old, or in my case, a 12 or a 13-year-old, computers and hoverboards, and while you're struggling at a time in your life, and then say the other parent, "See, look at all this stuff we get you," and the other parent doesn't really love you, and this person doesn't see everything I do. It's easy to manipulate a child. But the child can only be manipulated if you allow the child to be so. She doesn't decide when she gets to see your child, you decide. And there lies the real danger. Okay, because these people, they can't wait to be alone with your kids. Alone, 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 alone. That's what my mother would do. Anytime I let her around Erin, she would sneak in, sneak her away. She was shoving pacifiers in her mouth, redressing her in clothes she bought her, posing her during nap, waking her up from naps, posing her. So the risk is like basically ending up in a situation where where I'm in, where your child is basically easily brainwashed and bought off, because that's what it's easy to do to kids. It's easy. shoving dirt in her mouth. I mean, come on. The danger isn't what they're saying to your kids. The danger is allowing her around your child to begin with. We can talk about all the inherent dangers, and we have over and over and over again. Any opportunity the narcissist has to undermine you, especially to your children, they are going to do it. That's why they want to run away and be alone. Why else would they want to be alone all the time with your children? The key here is your husband, because it is his mother. I would say to him, look at your sister. Is that what you want for our daughter? Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get. What grown adult, a grandmother, screams and cries and please, please, please? It's time for your husband. I've said this to many, many women who are dealing with the same thing. Your husband needs to put on his big boy pants, stand up to his mom, say, you're not to see my child alone, if at all. If at all. You give her the boundary. You say, I think you're trying to manipulate my child. I don't like it. You are not watching my child. You are not to take my child away. You are not to remove her from my sight without my permission. You don't show up. You don't show anywhere. You don't take my child. You don't redress my child. Those are the boundaries. And you make it clear any violation of those boundaries is going to result in you not seeing this child permanently. That's the only thing, because that's where it's going to end up anyway. Whether or not you want to start from that premise, which I really think you should do, but I don't think your husband's anywhere near that point. But your husband has to understand that his mother is looking to destroy your child. She only cares for herself and whatever supply she can get from you through your child, she is going to take. Look what she did to your sister. And now she's going to repeat the process. Somebody has to stand up. And I don't buy that nobody sees through her and nobody. Bullshit. The reason she's doing this is because she has a need to prove herself, which tells me that she's probably not as popular as she leads on. People just don't want to call her on it. The key here is her access to your child. You hold the access, not her. So the other stuff about the malignant narcissism and what, yeah, we've talked about that over and over and over and over again, but it doesn't even need to get to that point. Because when you are dealing with these sort of things, when you're dealing with a narcissistic in-law like this, it is the spouse's responsibility to have your back. Because you're the family he chose. Not the one he was born into. I don't understand why being born into a family overrides the family you choose. Narcissists want you to think it does, and it doesn't. That's the rub. They say, we're family, we're family, we're family. Right. But I had no choice whether or not to be in this family or not, at least for your husband. Your husband chose to make his own family with you, not to choose his family over you and his own daughter. He needs to understand that. He needs to realize that when dealing with his mother. So thank you for your contribution and your story. I hope it helps. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, or you'd like a Skype call or a private video made, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.